growing number of high-tech, artificially intelligent, internet-connected cars, appliances, cameras, roadways, and pipelines, and more. That's what they want to push everybody towards, this total control infrastructure. And how will they improve efficiency? Using utility meters and sensors that monitor the capacity of power generation, network, and continually gather data and supply on demand of electricity. Those are your smart meters. Integrated traveler information services and toll road pricing based on traffic, weather, and other data. Those are the black boxes in the cars and the TSA controlling who travels where. Data gathering and feedback from citizens using mobile phones. That's the NSA spying they're doing on you. So all this is under this Planet Under Pressure plan back in 2012. And where does all this come from? All this EPA regulations that have recently come about? Well, it all comes from the UN. Wood fires fuel climate change UN. This is out of The Guardian. The United Nations report has just uncovered wood burning and diesel vehicles as two of the biggest culprits in the developing world of generating black carbon soot. That is a major cause of climate change. It's nice to sit in front of a wood fire in the winter, but we should all be feeling pretty guilty, says Joseph Alcameo, chief scientist at the UN Environment Program. Here's the Telegraph. Wood-burning stoves cause global warming. 300,000 tons of black carbon emissions in Europe and New York comes from wood burning. Wood-burning stoves are gaining popularity in both the U.S. and Europe as homes go back to rustic fashion and the price of heating rises and households are encouraged to adopt a green technology. But it's got to be the right kind of green technology, not the kind that doesn't put you under environmental regulation. Now, how do the EPA and UN mix together? Well, here they are, right here on the EPA's own website. Under their climate change section, International Climate Partnerships. Below is a list of main international climate change initiatives the EPA supports. And it lists the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change as one of their international conventions. It also lists Energy Star as one of the programs it supports, and that's the program where they take all the appliances out there, basically make them work with less electricity, using less water, but they don't also work as well as they used to. That's all part of the new global love that they're going to be pushing on you. EPA's role in United Nations Environmental Program, UNEP. UNEP assesses global, regional, and national environmental conditions and trends, develops international agreements and national environmental instruments, strengthens institutions for wise environmental management, integrates economic development and environmental protection, facilitates the transfer of knowledge and technology for sustainable development, and encourages new partnerships and mindsets within civil and the private sector. And then you can read the UNEP agreement on this page that was signed by an EPA Administrator Jackson. So the EPA is signing up with the UN to basically control you, get rid of wood-burning stoves because those are bad, and push people into compact cities. That's going to kill your grandmother and kill wood burning as we know it. And you got to ask yourselves, we've been burning wood for thousands of years, tens of thousands of years. Do we really need to get rid of this act? Is this something that it's time to get rid of, that we shouldn't have wood burning anymore? Is it really that big of a problem, or is there something else? Is there a bigger agenda afoot?
Agenda 21 is the action plan to destroy your sovereignty, and that is your personal sovereignty and your national sovereignty. This is the green mask, the environmental mask. Because if you are terrified that you're killing the planet, you will be willing to accept any restriction.
That's right, it's Agenda 21. And this doesn't just pertain to the United States. This is going everywhere. Here it is in Business Insider. Cool Yule as Paris bans fire logs. 435 towns and cities will be banned from using open fireplaces, so they're banning fires. Greek government to ban operation of fireplaces and wood-burning stoves and fine wrongdoers. It's like the evildoers. There's an army of counselors, advisors, experts, and specialists sitting in their fuzzy warm offices in several Greek ministries. This army of well-paid, spoiled slackers spend the winter months at work because taxpayers come up with their heating needs. This money is also paid to those taxpayers who freeze in their own icy cold homes because they cannot afford the exorbitant prices of heating oil, natural gas, and electricity needed for AC. Can you imagine the fireplace police? Or will they be called the wood police as they enter your home and fine you 100 euros and even detain you for heating your home? EU and bid to freeze out patio heaters, and that's from The Guardian. And they say when this ban comes into effect and is enforced, it will cost pubs and eateries in the UK up to £250 million of lost revenue per year. That's the name of the game in Europe and the US, everywhere. The UN's pushing it, and now the United States has gone into it with the EPA, and that's to ban this type of activity. They want to ban basic human activity that's been around for 10,000 years. But why is that? It's because of carbon, they say. It's heating up the earth. It's cooling the earth. It's changing the earth, whatever. And that this carbon dioxide, it's not even carbon, it's carbon dioxide, but they call it carbon because they don't want you to really think about what it is, because you know in grade school you were taught, right? Photosynthesis, plants breathe carbon dioxide, put out oxygen. Yeah, well, now it's been proven. Daily Mail, carbon dioxide emissions help tropical rainforests grow faster. Studies show trees absorb more greenhouse gas than expected. NASA study shows tropical rainforests absorb 1.5 billion tons of CO2 a year. Rainforests absorb more than half the CO2 taken up by vegetation globally. Tropical forests are growing faster than scientists thought due to the rising levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So you see, as carbon dioxide increases, plants grow faster, taking in that carbon dioxide and putting out more oxygen. That's how it works. It's a self-regulating mechanism. But not if you talk to a UN global climate change person. They just are like, carbon, carbon, carbon. We got to get rid of the carbon, got to get rid of the carbon. NASA, how tropical rainforests may end the climate change issue. But what about all that polar sea ice that they're telling you about? It's melting away. Well, number of ships transitioning Arctic waters falls in 2004. This is out of ABC News. Mike Humphert, executive director of the Arctic Institute, a Washington-based think tank, says, I think 2014 shows that development and Arctic shipping may be further off than we might have thought a few years ago. The ice is not melting as quickly as previously predicted. Arctic sea ice a whole lot more stable than scientists Al Gore predicted. Despite dire predictions that the North Pole will be ice-free in the near future, Arctic ice levels have been more stable than scientists predicted. So what does all this mean? These global governments are getting together with local regions. They're not even cities or states or counties. It's these regional areas, and they're maintaining control over basic human activity. And once they ban fire, and once they kill off your grandmother and take her land, what are they coming after next? They're coming after the wheel. And that wheel is those drivers out there in their cars. They're going to force you into driverless cars, into compact cities, and control everything you do, all in the name of saving the planet. Remember this next time you start a fire. In fact, maybe you should start a fire right now just to protest the UN and the EPA and all these global climate change fanatics. This has been Rob Dew for INFOWARS.com and INFOWARS Nightly News. If you're watching this on YouTube, please consider becoming a member of PrisonPlanet.tv. Right now we're having an amazing special. For under $30, you get a full year membership, and you could share your username and password with up to 20 people. It's an amazing deal, and it's a great way to spread the word. Thank you for watching.
From the water table to our soils to the atmosphere itself, our world is becoming more and more toxic each and every day. But it's not just the air outside that's toxic. Indoor air has been shown to have 2 to 5 times higher concentrations of pollutants than even outdoor air. And most Americans spend 90% of their time inside using toxic chemicals within their homes. There are more than 42 million smokers in the United States. Well over 1,000 types of mold and mildew linked to numerous conditions. And don't forget the fact that 6 million Americans live with pets they're allergic to as well. When I began to research these statistics, it was clear to me it was time to start cleansing my lungs in order to combat the toxic environment that we cannot escape, but that we can fight back against. Made with organic and wild cultivated herbs and manufactured in the USA, the new INFOWARS Life Lung Cleanse is here in a convenient spray bottle that can be brought with you throughout any toxic environment. Now available exclusively at INFOWARSLife.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139. Sold out for weeks due to the difficult and extensive proprietary process behind its creation, the exclusive INFOWARS Life Secret 12 formulation is now back in stock in the last limited shipment of 2014. The most bioactive form that has been created with our proprietary process. This ultra-clean vitamin B12 nutraceutical has been carefully crafted and developed over the last 2 years and is based on cellular science of how your body actively absorbs essential nutrients. Secret 12 is taken by mouth, right on the tongue, and then swallowed. No needles, no injections. Vitamin B12 deficiency is linked to scores of serious problems. And Secret 12 is a fusion of 2 organic, proprietary forms of vitamin B12, bringing you a true nutraceutical quality vitamin B12. Secret 12. Secret 12 is an excellent Christmas gift and is tailor-made to boost your New Year's resolutions. Supplies of Secret 12 are very limited. Secure yours today at INFOWARSLife.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139.
All your life, you've been fed the big pharma lie that you can't personally do anything to protect against sickness and disease. And if you come down with cancer, then it's your fault, and it's genetic bad luck. Or if you get the common cold or pneumonia, and even someone dies from pneumonia, that it's their bad luck and there's nothing you could possibly do about it. We know that's false, and we know it comes down to the immune system, and it comes down to gut health and the microbiome and the probiotics and the liver health and so on and so forth that we're not going to get into tonight. Ultimately, though, there is a line of defense that we're all aware of. I mean, something is fighting the sickness, and there's a reason that certain people die from the flu and certain people do not. And it comes down to their ability to produce a certain type of lectin. Specifically, the research is now clear that there's an astounding new discovery that actually dates back quite some time, but is now becoming mainstream and making sense. It has to do with something called a mannose-binding lectin. Now, specifically, we can even go to the National Library of Medicine, which I've been researching for days now on this, where we find, just looking into the research on their website specifically, we can read that a mannose-binding lectin deficiency is actually the result of many diseases. Specifically, even on the genetics home reference of the U.S. National Library of Medicine, they state that a mannose-binding lectin deficiency is a condition that affects the immune system. People with this condition have low levels of an immune system protein called mannose-binding lectin in their blood. These individuals are prone to recurrent infections, including infections of the upper respiratory tract and other body systems. Now, what does that mean? It means that if your body can't produce these mannose-binding lectins, you're going to get sick, right? And a lot of people are deficient in these mannose-binding lectins. But how do you produce them, and what are they? Okay, so you have a gene that is actually responsible for expressing the creation of these lectins. But they've found now, studying people, and a lot of this research is old and it's not being funded because Big Pharma loves it, they found that a lot of people aren't producing these mannose-binding lectins for one reason or another. And they say it's a mystery. We have no idea why people aren't able to fight off the common cold or the flu, while some are. Gee, also some people that live in indigenous areas and eat fruit and apples and live to 120 years old are not getting sick. What's going on? Obviously, and they admit there's environmental factors turning off your genetic ability, so I do agree it's genetics in some degree, your genetic ability to fight off disease with these mannose-binding lectins. So what is it? Environmental. It means that either something in the air, the water, or the food is affecting your ability to create your immune system. So think about it as a light switch. There's a light switch on the wall in this room, and if I turn it off, all of the lights go off. But there could actually be a little side deal where you turn it on slightly and the lights begin to increase. That's exactly what your immune system is like. And if you're on full power, you're not going to get sick. It's going to crush everything. And I'll actually show you specific documentation for this. In fact, we'll look at one of the harshest viruses, the most weaponized, Ebola. We can go to Harvard Medical School in conjunction with the U.S. Army Medical Research Institute of Infectious Diseases, which is out of Fort Detrick, Maryland, and look at this key study. High-dose mannose-binding lectin therapy for Ebola virus infection. And what they found, reading the news reports on this, is that a healthy body can produce mannose-binding lectins and actually destroy the cell wall of the Ebola virus. From there, it can destroy the virus and the individual does not die or get fully sick from the virus itself, and they defend it. Their immune system, the light switch is fully on, they're producing the mannose-binding lectins, and they're destroying the virus. Now, specifically in rats, there's other studies as well similar to this, and they also did it in this one. They give the rats secretion amounts of mannose-binding lectins, and they found that the rats that have higher amounts and higher levels were actually not only immune to Ebola virus, but if they were actually to get it inside of their body, they would quickly destroy the cell wall and defeat the virus completely. And even the rats that were previously susceptible to it, with enough mannose-binding lectins, they were perfectly fine. So what this means is it's applicable to human science. It means two things. Number one, the immune system of humanity can actually be measured by these mannose-binding lectins. And number two, there's no real research being funded besides the Army and deep underground research in these labs where they're actually trying to figure out how to stop diseases, which they already know about in many ways. But Big Pharma and FDA and CDC don't want to tell you about mannose-binding lectins. Gee, I wonder why that is. Because mannose-binding lectins come from activating your immune system naturally. It's the most essential thing that I believe now, that based on the research, that you can do. And it's essential to turn that switch on with the simplest of ways. Obviously, avoiding GMOs, avoiding garbage in the food supply, avoiding tap water are all key ways, but I want to highlight a few different ingredients that I've found to be the most powerful and effective based on the PubMed